we've got Gohan, no pronouns preferred, it says, calling in from Tiny Xylophones, who is a theist as well, who calls in a lot, and who says their brother is non-binary and has general questions. That's what it says in the thing. Gohan, you're on the line with Forrest and Roxanne. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How about you guys?
Never had a bad day.
All right, I like to hear it. Forrest, I just got asked really quick. Based off of what that one guy is saying, it's like you've had a full life and you're like 40 years old. I don't think there's any way anybody could accomplish all that stuff.
I'm flip, dude. The freaky thing is, like I said, every bit of that conspiracy theory has a grain of truth to it, because that's how conspiracy theories work. Like, I have taught at a Christian school before. I was a Freemason before. I have traveled to a few different countries, and I do teach science and everything on the internet. And I did run for office one time, and like every bit of that is almost something that happened, and then right at the end, it takes a wild turn into bullshit, and it's great.
Well,
but I also am 45, so like,
I think you would have to be for all that to be true,
right? Anyway, Gohan, what is your question? What are you calling about?
So I called in once before for this. I got hung up on, and you know what? That's fine. Did
you reflect on why?
Sorry?
Did you reflect on why?
Yeah, so it was more of like, I don't need to. I don't have YouTube pulled up. I know I'm talking to Forrest. Who else am I talking to?
You are talking to Roxanne, a PhD in psychology. That's all right.
How good does that feel? Be honest with me. How good does that feel?
Being a doctor.
Well, congrats.
It's doctor, actually. No, it feels good.
Well, Dr. Roxanne.
That's me.
I heard you saying earlier something that like applied to this very much was like, I don't need to understand something to respect it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't need to understand what it's like to be a woman to believe somebody else is a woman.
Sure thing. That is what I said.
Yeah, long and short of it.
And that's also what Matt said after he hung up on me. I think the difference for me is it's not that I don't understand what it's like to be non-binary, because I don't. I just don't understand what non-binary truly means. I do understand what a woman truly means. I don't understand what non-binary truly means.
Do you understand what woman truly means?
I would
dead serious.
I mean, yeah. That's a fair question. I would say any human without a Y chromosome.
Okay, so then men with De La Chapelle syndrome who have a penis and testicles are women.
Do they have a Y chromosome?
Nope. De La Chapelle syndrome, it is literally called XX male syndrome. So you are anatomically male, chromosomally female. So are those men actually secretly women?
I wouldn't say they're men. I would say they are women based off their chromosomes.
Even though they are born with a penis and testicles and can sire children and all these things, that all doesn't matter?
No, yeah, that doesn't matter. What matters is your DNA.
Cool.
That's what makes up who you are.
Well, there you all right. Then we agree that some women have penises, at least. That's pretty cool. Let's just kind of keep down that. Right. So let's continue down that road then a little bit. You said anybody without a Y chromosome. What about like other chromosomal configurations? You're saying that the Y chromosome is the only thing that definitely always makes someone a woman, someone a man. Is that what I'm hearing?
As far as I know, but you can go ahead and educate me if I'm wrong.
You are, but it's okay. It's because like the major issue here is that what you're doing, not only are you missing out on like how intersex people work, but also you are conflating sex and gender together. So like,
well,
let's take the opposite. Let's take the
up.
opposite end of it here and say, like, if you say a Y chromosome, you define woman as anybody without a Y chromosome. So then it sounds necessarily like you would define man as anybody with a Y chromosome. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so then Swyer syndrome is a great example, which is sometimes also called XY female syndrome. Swyer syndrome is where you have XY chromosomes and you still develop anatomically as a female. So women with Swyer syndrome, they have a vulva, they have a vagina, they have a uterus, they have uterine tubes, they have ovaries. There are plenty of case studies of women with Swyer syndrome getting pregnant and giving birth. So you say that those are actually men.
Yeah, I have no problem saying that.
So even without separating sex from gender, you agree that some women have a penis and some men can get pregnant.
Sure. That's not a problem for me.
Well,
then
weirdest progress we've ever made. Weirdest progress we've ever made.
There you go.
But like that. But that's the thing, though, is that like, if you're telling me, regardless of how you're defining these people, men with De La Chapelle syndrome live their lives as men. They have the gender identity of man. You are calling them women, and that's totally whatever. Like, it's not neither here nor there. The point is, they feel like men, dress like men, behave like men, live their whole lives. They could go their whole lives without knowing what their chromosomal configuration is. And women with Swyer syndrome, similarly, may never know that they have Swyer syndrome. They live their whole lives as women, presenting as women, feeling as women, behaving as women. And you're telling me that you have there's this underlying reality here, which you, by the way, can never verify. Like, you don't check people's chromosomes when you talk to them, right? So like, you have no idea what a woman is when you're speaking to one. You don't know if the person you're talking to is a woman or not. You don't know what anything about this person. You only get their presentation. And these people certainly don't know if they're a man or a woman by your definition. So I ask again, do you actually really know what a woman is? Because it sounds like you have a definition, which sucks. Your definition's bad, but like, even if we accept it, it still doesn't do anything for you in your actual day-to-day life. And I guarantee you have not compared your definition of woman to any woman you have ever met ever.
Well, that's very close, because my daughter, she had some blood tests when she was in utero. She does have XX chromosomes. So I know she does not have.
So there is exactly one woman in the entire world that you are sure is a woman.
Well, just to point out, you said a second ago, there's no way I've ever done it. So, but I mean, just to prove, yes, it is possible. No,
sure, like it is possible.
Woman, I have no idea.
Correct. Right, and that's what I'm getting at. In your one example here was a super specific circumstance, but as I also said a minute ago, you don't check people's chromosomes when you shake their hands. So like, every single woman you have ever met, you don't know if they are a woman or not based on your definition. And every single man you have ever met may secretly be a woman based on your definition, and you wouldn't know otherwise. So again, you said, I know generally what a woman is. I don't think you have this bad definition that does nothing for you in the real world. So you can't understand what it means to be a woman, because a lot of women out there are living their lives as men, according to you, and neither you nor they know the difference.
So I would say, yes, I would not be able to know for sure, but that doesn't mean I don't know what a woman is if I don't recognize it when I see it. If I have a definition, that means I know.
I didn't say your definition is non-existent. I said your definition is non-functional.
I mean, it very is functional. It helped me with my girl. Did it not?
No.
So I found out her chromosomes based off my definition. That puts her into a certain category. So how is that not functional?
So, God, I can't be more clear about this. I don't know how I can get this across. When I say functional, what I mean is it doesn't have any utility in your day-to-day life. You have this one specific example where you happen to have a blood test done on your own daughter. which is a reasonable thing to have happen at some point or another, or whatever. But every other person you have ever met or interacted with or even thought of, you can't do it. You don't have that basis. And so you're telling me that you know what it means to be a woman when, by your definition, which I can't stress enough, is a wrong definition, but it doesn't matter. By your definition, there are plenty of women out there that look and feel and act like men, that have no idea that they're actually women, and that you don't know are actually women. And plenty of women out there that aren't actually women, apparently, and that live their lives in this horrible lie as well. And you're telling me you know what it means, even if you don't know what it feels like to be a woman, you know what it means to be a woman. And you don't. You, by your definition here, you don't.
Okay. So, I mean, I understand your points. And I honestly, I do think they're fair. If I was going to talk about something, I was actually going to try to talk about my brother's view on gender, if that's okay. That way I could maybe understand a little bit more. Because I do love my brother. He hasn't talked to me for about since Trump got elected. And it's
have you reflected on why?
Sorry?
Have you, same question as when you said you got hung up on last time you called in. Have you reflected on why?
Yes. But I was wondering maybe if I could get some help. So do you mind if I get into my brother's view of gender and my questions about it, and maybe you guys could help answer?
I mean, sure, man.
Sure. Okay. So he is non-binary. He says he's neither a man or a woman.
And yet you are using he to describe them.
All right. I'll say my brother's name from now on. Chris says...
It is so
Chris
bizarre that you would rather avoid using pronouns altogether than just use a correct pronoun. But continue, I guess. Because why not?
You say correct. I say maybe not. But Chris says Chris is not a man or a woman. I understand that Chris doesn't feel like Chris enters into either category fully. And I've known that for a while, and I understand that. But Chris always says, my brain is not fully a man's brain. I don't like to do everything that men like to do in society. And my question back is, if my name Gohan, if I am born a man, I like to do everything that females like to do in society, but I still identify as a man, what am I? And he tells me that I'm a man because I identify as man. So that means it's not based on any society norms.
No, it's based on self-identification. It is necessarily rooted in self-identity. And so the only way to accurately assess it is to ask someone to report it.
So it's not based on societal norms?
Gender is. Gender identity is not.
See, that's not something I've ever heard before. I don't really know what that is.
Right, and that fucking sucks. Because, I'm happy to break it down for you, but, the fact is, you just said, your brother isn't speaking to you because they are fundamentally having such a difficult time. And you said you reflected on why. I don't think you did. I think your reflection on why you got hung up with last time was they didn't want to talk to me anymore. They're sensitive. They just couldn't handle the conversation or whatever. And I think your reflection on why your brother isn't speaking to you is probably something along the lines of they're just being emotional. They're just not being rational. They just can't keep up with me. They just don't want to talk to me. They're just being crazy, whatever. Because if you reflected sincerely on why this person who loves you and trusts you and cares about you no longer trusts you with the conversation, it's probably because they think you're an asshole, because you keep treating them like shit and misgendering them and ignoring their existence and asking questions that you could easily just go check. And instead, you're making it their burden to justify their existence to you rather than just listening to what they're saying. You just explained that you had this conversation with them where you were saying, well, what if I feel this way? Can you just call me this? Because then it's not rooted in it. That's not their fucking job to educate you on this. It's your job as a brother to say, hey, man, I don't understand, but I love you and I'm here for you. That's your job. And the fact that you couldn't pull it off is probably why they're not talking to you.
Why do, like, if I did that, I would 100% feel like I'm lying to my brother. Because I don't understand.
Okay, well, then you're a dick.
On something that I don't understand.
Yeah, then you're a dick.
So,
your brother doesn't have to justify their existence to you. Your brother doesn't have to explain why they feel the way they feel. You aren't lying by saying I love you and I support you, unless you are, in which case it's probably a good thing they're not associating with you. You don't have to understand someone to respect them is the thing you started this call with. And now you're doing the exact opposite.
If I said that my brother is non-binary, to me that would be a lie because I don't believe it. So I have to believe it in order to say it without lying. That's just
which is dumb. You could very easily explore the science of sex and gender. Like, you're on a show about it right now. We can get into it. You could explore these facts on your own, or you could look for resources about them, or you could talk to other non-binary people. There's plenty of non-binary content creators out there that explain like where they're coming from and what they're talking about and how they feel and why they feel that way. You could understand that gender is a highly individualized, personalized experience, and then you could be a better brother. But you're choosing not to do that because it is easier and more comfortable for you to live in the narrow heuristics of your shitty worldview than it is to be there for your sibling.
I've listened to Takis almost every episode. I've been exploring all of this, and I still haven't crossed the bridge yet to where I could say, I understand what non-binary means. I can call you non-binary without that being a lie.
Right. I mean, like, when you say you don't understand, like, there's definitions of what it is, like where people tell you what it is. And so it seems like your inability to understand is because you've never experienced it. Is that like, what's the disconnect of not understanding? Like, I don't understand, or like, I don't know, there's tons of shit that happens that like didn't happen to me, but I know it happened. Like, what's the
Dr.
disconnect?
Roxanne, are you a fan of Dragon Ball?
Of what?
Dragon Ball?
Dragon Ball? No, can't say I ever watched that or played that.
If I asked you to call me a Saiyan, you might not know what that is. And if you say I am a Saiyan, since you don't know what that is, that would be a lie.
That's so fucking lazy, dude.
Okay.
That's so fucking lazy.
Engage the logic with that, Forrest, instead of just cursing.
Yes, it's the exact same. Okay. It's the exact same thing as when people say, "Well, why can't I identify as black?" It's just fucking lazy, and it shows that you've never taken the time to seriously consider what a social construct is and how it works. Let me ask you this: if man and woman are actually like concrete terms. If man and woman are actually concrete terms, then can we say that there are definitive masculine and feminine behaviors?
I'm sorry, I'd like to hear Dr. Roxanne's answer before we cut her off.
Okay, sure. Dr. Roxanne.
I don't really understand the example that you gave because I have no idea about anything about Dragon Ball Z, but I would like to more so hear your answer of my question, which is like, what's the disconnect of you not understanding it when people tell you that they are non-binary? We could give you a textbook definition of what non-binary is, and yet you claim that you don't understand it. So is it because you've never had the experience?
I would say no. It's because I understand the words of the definition. My brother doesn't feel like he fits into either category of male or female. Fully. Like he has a couple of qualities that go into either one, but not any of them fully. So I understand what that means, but to say my brother is not a male, or like, honestly, I have a whole issue with the idea of gender. I like to use the sexual terms. So to say my brother's not a male,
which is
that's
silly.
not something I believe. I'm sorry if me being more.
I mean, as someone with a PhD
biology
in understanding gender identity, I can't say that like we could have like a level discussion if you refuse to acknowledge that gender is not a thing, because then we're just not talking about the same concept.
That's where we have a big disconnect. Is I don't believe in gender.
It's like trying to talk to
then I think
like
the disconnect is not really like it's not like a difference of opinion when one of us like is actually an expert in something. It's like saying that I don't know. I have a disconnect with the French chef at my local restaurant because they make a really fucking great sauce that I've never made. It's not a disconnect. It's that I don't have the skills or the knowledge to do it in my kitchen. It doesn't mean that, like what?
Yeah, it is exactly the same kind of logic as an anti-vaxxer saying, like, I don't know what the M in mRNA stands for, therefore I'm against vaccines. It is the exact same nonsense presented with the exact same mentality to the exact same result, Gohan. And quite frankly, like, I'm happy to break this stuff down for you. I'm not going to sit here and just let you continue to misgender and drag your brother through the mud. Just like, it's just not appropriate and it's not worth anybody's time. So like, here's the thing, is that like it's very obvious and easy to identify how gender and sex are different. And you can focus on just looking at gender as a fluid concept across time. Even in our culture, even in Western culture, gender traditions and gendered norms and gendered behaviors have changed an awful lot. Nail polish was invented for men. High heels were invented for men. Powdered wigs were invented for men. Before the 1600s, men used to weep with emotion and faint when they got overexcited. None of these things would be appropriate masculine behavior today because the concept of gender has changed over the course of the past couple of centuries, because gender changes from generation to generation, from culture to culture, sometimes from person to person, sometimes even from day to day, because that's just how the shit works. And if you'd taken the time to seriously consider literally anything that you're bitching about on this call, you would have probably come to that conclusion by yourself. But as is usually the case with your calls, it seems, you are too self-important to get past that wall of assuming that you might be wrong about something that you are not an expert in, and actually taking a step out onto the water to say like, hey, there's actually more to this that I could be exploring and learning. And so instead, you've alienated a family member and just told someone with a PhD that you don't believe in the thing they have a PhD in. And I don't understand how you can be that consistently arrogant and self-entitled. With that, Gohan, it's been weird as always. I encourage you to actually reflect on why this is happening to you. Why are you being hung up on so often? Why are your family members not wanting to associate with you? There can't be 50 different common denominators, Gohan. There can only be one. And I think that one is you. Think about it, Gohan. Call us back later, or maybe wrong.
Oof.
Yeah, it's a bad time.
Oof.
Yeah. By the by, to the people in chat, you are correct. I could have used the word sibling for that. I personally have met non-binary people that are cool with words like brother and sister. I didn't have any context on that from Gohan. I made sure to stick to they as a pronoun because that seemed most appropriate, but without any other context. I just didn't want to make any major leaps like that. Chris, if you're watching this, your brother's an asshole and I'm sorry, and you're great. And I wish you all the best.
Hey, if you liked that clip, you'd love the whole thing. Hit like, subscribe,
Yes.
Leave a comment, patreon.com/calltheline. That one sucked. Use it.